London's green spaces are really something special. If you happen to find yourself helicoptering over London, you'll see just how much of the city exists under trees and between urban wildernesses. We owe a great deal to the people who look after our parks and public gardens. Even the ones locked behind wrought iron gates give us much-needed health benefits. Every year we get the chance to see the hidden gardens and the people working overtime to maintain them. The Open Garden Squares weekend has been running for 21 years now and has more than 200 green spaces participating by opening their gates to the public. It returns this weekend, June 9 to 10, and one of the main themes is the contribution women have made to horticulture over the years, from the first woman to qualify in landscape design to trailblazing gardeners at the Chelsea Flower Show. London's largest green space, Richmond Park, is full of fantastic places to discover, but the Isabella Plantation towards the south of the park is a stunningly colourful spot and well worth seeking out. This community garden around the corner from Covent Garden Inn is a serene space perfect for enjoying a moment of reflection. It's also one of London's most Instagrammable green spaces and perfect for a quick photo opportunity. As well as individual allotments, Walworth contains a charmingly haphazard wildlife area which is open to the public on the weekends. Visit this South London setting and escape the city for a while. The charming and isolated gardens at Keats House in Hampstead inspired some of the most enduring romantic prose of the early 19th century, with poet John Keats living and writing here from 1918 to 20. Enjoy a coffee and leaf through a copy of Great Expectations at the Charles Dickens Museum Courtyard and Garden. Brunswick Square Gardens and St Andrew's Gardens are just around the corner, but this Doughty Street location is one of Bloomsbury's secret green spaces. The Pergola in Hampstead Heath is one of London's hidden gems. The grand structure was built in 1904 by a wealthy landowner but gradually fell into disrepair and was engulfed by the surrounding foliage. Today there's real tranquility to be found here, and it's a fantastic spot to enjoy a moment of reflection in North London. Building works and high-rise office developments surround this gem of a garden in Liverpool Street, but don't let that put you off. The green space outside the St Ethelburga's Centre for Reconciliation and Peace feels incredibly far removed from the hectic pace of the city, despite being right under the shadow of the Heron Tower. Plenty of Arsenal fans gather outside the lovely Art Deco facade of their old ground on Avenel Road, but many don't realise a hidden square lies just behind. The green space here offers the chance to spend sunny summer days on what used to be the hallowed turf of Highbury. Barbican Conservatory is the second biggest conservatory in London after Kew, but it remains something of an unknown amongst most Londoners. It's only open on Sundays, which may explain its relative obscurity, but this intriguing tropical space is certainly one to seek out. At just 0.35 hectares, this hidden spot in Islington is the smallest nature reserve in the city. Next time you're in N1, make sure to visit this peaceful haven, nestled right next to St Andrew's Church. Kicking off the festivities, a panel is discussing women in horticulture on Thursday, June 7th. The 7 women talk about their roots into horticulture, designing show gardens at Chelsea Flower Show, whether there are enough women in prominent gardening roles, and if women make better gardeners. 4 have expert experience at Chelsea Flower Show: Sarah Everly, the only woman ever to win Best in Show; Juliet Sargent, who made history as the first black woman to exhibit and won a gold medal for her modern slavery garden; and Charlotte Harris and Charlotte Rowe, who have both won gold medals in recent years. Claire Foggett, editor of the English Garden magazine; Dr. Catherine Horwood, who wrote Gardening Women, Their Stories from 1600 to Present; and head gardener at Middle Temple Kate Jenrick complete the panel. Bright Ideas for London's Trickiest Outdoor Spaces. A series of walks reveal the structural impact women made on the city. Politician Ada Salter, who was president of the Women's Labour League and of the National Gardens Guild, believed that the cultivation of flora is a civic duty. This walk winds through Bermondsey, where her beautification committee created green oases in the heavily industrialized part of London that live on today. Walking from Tottenham Court Road, through St Giles and Bloomsbury, see the gardens of Fanny Wilkinson, the first woman to qualify in landscape design and architecture. The tour will tell you about the life of this remarkable woman, who demanded to be paid the same rate as male gardeners and founded the Women's Agricultural and Horticultural International Union in 1899. More than £100 billion worth of gold bars lie in the Bank of England vault. It's the second largest keeper of gold in the world, after the New York Federal Reserve. In the 320 years of its existence, no gold has ever been stolen, but in 1836, there was a close call. The bank directors received an anonymous letter in which the writer said they had access and proposed a meeting in the vault. At the agreed hour, a man popped up through the floorboards. He was a sewage worker who had discovered an old drain during repair work. After a count, it was revealed he hadn't taken anything, and as a reward, the bank gave him a gift of £800, now worth around £80,000. Leafy Rosemead Garden is the lovely private park made famous in Notting Hill. Now what in the world in this garden could make that ordeal worthwhile, asks Hugh Grant. We might not all get a kiss from Julia Roberts while being serenaded by Ronan Keating, but it's still pretty beautiful, enclosed in trees and surrounded by multicolored houses. It's open to the public for one day a year, during the Open Garden Squares weekend, though it isn't participating this year, during which hundreds of private communal gardens throw open their gates. It might sound spooky, but catacomb is only a nickname. There are no dead bodies here, as far as we're aware. Underneath part of Camden Market, these vaulted tunnels were originally built as stables for the horses that worked on the railways. There's also an underground pool for boats that operated on the Regent's Canal. Later on in 1869, the vaults became a storage space for whiskey, wine and gin. It's closed to the public as there are dangers of flooding, but the structure has managed to survive very well considering its age. We all know what the inside of 10 Downing Street looks like from watching Love Actually, but it's very rare that us normals will make it past the gate at the end of the street, let alone step through the door. The main attraction of this building is, of course, Larry, resident cat and chief mouser to the Cabinet Office. Lots of prime ministers have lived there as well, though. In 1732, King George II gave Sir Robert Walpole the building, the latter only accepting on the condition it would go to the office of the First Lord of the Treasury, rather than himself. London is peppered with underground stations that never opened or were shut for some reason or another. Aldwych Station on the Strand was used during peak hours until 1994, but when the cost became too high, it was closed, but is still technically operational if you pulled the right lever. In both World Wars it became an air raid shelter and, due to its proximity to galleries, safeguarded 300 paintings from the National Gallery and the Elgin Marbles. It's since been a popular filming location, so you might recognize it from Sherlock, V for Vendetta or Atonement. White's, initially a 17th-century Italian hot chocolate house, is London's most exclusive private members club. It's just for very rich men, so lots of us would file this firmly under places we wouldn't want to go to anyway. Only one woman has been permitted entrance to the club, and that's the Queen, once, in 1991. Its current members are mostly earls and dukes and royals, including Princes Charles and William, and former members include Evelyn Waugh, Oswald Mosley and David Cameron, supposedly the only person to leave the club voluntarily, rather than expulsion or death. Up until 1902, Newgate Prison stood next to the Old Bailey Courthouse. Before 1868, when hangings were a public spectacle, the condemned prisoners would be led down the walk between the prison and court to the gallows. The tunnel is reached by a cell with 2 doors, one to enter and one to exit through, and never return, and consists of a series of arches, each getting increasingly narrower the closer you get to the noose. The tunnel is very rarely open to outsiders, so jump at the chance if you get one. Finally, here's somewhere you absolutely can't go. The staterooms are open at various points during the year, but the private quarters of Buckingham Palace are most definitely off limits. But that hasn't stopped everyone. Most know the story of Michael Fagan who, in 1982, climbed over the barbed wire-topped perimeter wall and shinnied up the drain pipe outside, before wandering casually into the Queen's bedroom and terrifying her by sitting on the end of her bed. He was taken away by police but wasn't charged for trespassing at the time, only theft of wine, because it was a civil issue rather than a criminal offense. Before you start thinking about royal pajama parties, it became a criminal offense in 2007, so don't try this at home. For a bit more history, take a trip to the Crossbones Memorial Garden. It was once a burial ground for the women, known as the Winchester Geese, who worked in Bankside's brothels, and went on to become a pauper's burial site. In recent years a campaign ran for many years to open it as a garden of remembrance, which you can now visit. Coming back to the 21st century, the weekend also shines a spotlight on the women horticulturalists of today, focusing on the garden squares that are cultivated by women, from Cleveland Square in Bayswater, managed by Susanna Threaton, to the Cable Street Community Gardens, where Jane Sill has taken care of the plants for more than 30 years. A full list of gardens, tours and activities are available on the website, opensquares.org.